Hey everybody, it's me, Phaedra, and I want to tell you a little bit about some ways you might prepare for Component 1. So the first thing that I recommend for literacy candidates when preparing for Component 1, their testing center exercise, is to download the Component 1 content knowledge, sample items, and scoring rubrics. These are available on the National Board website, and I would download those and save them and print them and do all the things that you like to do with PDFs from the National Board. The first thing I would do is study the standards. All of the items on the Component 1 Assessment Center exercises are in relation to your standards for literacy. And so, alongside your standards, I would study this Component 1 content knowledge, sample items, and scoring rubrics PDF. It's very helpful. One thing that have found to be very helpful in the past is to look up the sample exercises, the sample selected response items. And now here's the trick that I think is most helpful. Read the question and highlight the verbs that the question is asking. So it says, which of the following steps would be most effective for the teacher to take first in order to best plan for the needs of this student? I would look at the verbs here and I would say, okay, let's see, best plan. And I might highlight that. And then I would look and I would try to rephrase what the question is actually asking. Which of the following steps would be most effective for the teacher to take first in order to best plan for the needs of this student? So I would study the question very carefully and think, what is it asking me to answer? Because oftentimes many of the questions are good ideas. And then the idea is in the multiple choice, which one answers the question the best, right? I won't give you the answer. The answers are in the sample questions. Then I would look at the verbs in the multiple choice. Collaborate, attend professional development, attempt to find a translator, or reading professional publications. I would look at those verbs. So this is a step a teacher would take first. Would they first collaborate? Would they first attend a PD? Would they first attempt to find a translator? Would they first read professional publication? I also would look closely at what standard it's asking me to respond to. So if standard 1, knowledge of learners, I would think, okay, how does this question relate to what I need to know about knowledge of learners? So that's one way to practice the sample selected response items in order to get skillful at decoding the questions themselves. Another thing that I've done in the past, and you might do with your colleagues, is I would write questions to see how I could write a potential selected response item. That could be helpful too. The other thing that I find to be extremely helpful, stand by, is to look at the sample constructed response exercises and practice them with a timer. That's I think the main challenge of the constructed response exercises is to be able to write in a timely way. You have 30 minutes per question, I believe, at least it was when I did. And so writing the responses with a timer can be very helpful. Then go back over your own responses using the scoring rubric to see how you might revise it and make it stronger. So practice with a timer for sure. Another thing that I've found to be helpful in writing the sample constructed responses is to basically have a toolkit in my mind of ways of gathering knowledge of students, assessments, instructional methods, and formative assessments, and goal setting tools already in my mind. Because when we show up at the testing center and we're faced with these constructed response, I don't know about you, but for me, it can sort of obliterate everything I already know about the architecture of accomplished teaching, about good teaching methods. And if I'm already ready with what do I do with a reader who's struggling? I get to know them, I assess them, I see what their strengths and needs are. I have a toolkit of instructional methods that I might pull from in order to build on their strengths and address their needs. And then I have a toolkit of formative assessments that I would use to gauge the effectiveness of my teaching. Have those at the ready so that when you're writing your constructed response exercises, you're not inventing something out of the blue, but like that guided reading has proven to be effective in the past. So maybe you'll choose guided reading as a way of addressing a need. Or that phonics and word study could be effective. So you have those sort of in your toolkit already. Don't forget your toolkit. The last thing I would suggest for those of us who have been in a certain grade band for a while, knowing that our content knowledge is expected to span a band, right? Ages 3 to 11, 3 to 12. I would study the age band and the standards in the age band for which I am less familiar. Like for me, I didn't have experience teaching pre-K or TK. And so I studied some of the professional literature based on for emergent and early literacy. I went to like Fontes and Pinnell and read Literacy Beginnings. I read Growing Readers by Kathy Collins. I read as much as I could about early literacy, and I visited classrooms, pre-K and TK classrooms, to see how they approached certain things. So for you, if maybe middle school or upper grades are less familiar, you might want to study the standards and some of the professional resources related to those grades so that you're prepared for that. These are just some tips and tricks for getting ready for your Component 1 Assessment Center exercises. Best of luck to everybody.